And, there's a lot going on. And tomorrow is the election in Georgia's 6th district. And Chris, you have the ad for that, don't you? Can we play that right now? There's a new ad playing by Karen Handel against John Ossoff. Karen Handel, the old Secretary of State, who purged the voting rolls in Georgia, including in the 6th district, of tens of thousands of African Americans and Korean Americans, oddly enough. There's Koreatown is in the 6th district. And now she's running for that seat. Greg Palast was on the show last week talking about this. Anyhow, here's the ad that's running.
Now the unhinged left is endorsing and applauding shooting Republicans. When will it stop? It won't if John Ossoff wins on Tuesday, because the same unhinged leftists cheering last week's shooting are all backing John Ossoff. And if he wins, they win. Stop them. Stop them now. Stop John Ossoff. Stop Nancy Pelosi. Vote Karen Handel for Congress. Vote Principled Leadership Project PAC paid for this ad and is solely responsible for its content.
This is paid for by an opaque SuperPAC. We don't know who the donors are. If you go to opensecrets.org, they have no information. One of the wonderful things the Supreme Court brought us. Both parties, the Republican Party in Georgia and the Democratic Party in Georgia, have condemned this ad and said, yes, it's also not true. But hey, this is the state of American politics. Meanwhile, in Germany, every party, this is from a piece in The Atlantic, Why Germany's Politics Are Much Saner, Cheaper, and Nicer Than Ours by Olga Kazan, published in September 30th, 2013. Each party creates just one 90-second ad for the entire election. The number of times in the last U.S. election, we spent $400 million in TV ads, but the TV is free in Germany. Each party gets a certain number of minutes for their ads. German campaigns will last only 6 weeks. The German government pays about 2/3 of all the costs of all the campaigning. There are absolute, limits on what can be contributed. The last major election, Angela Merkel running, the entire election from the chancellor all the way down to, I think her title is chancellor, all the way down to local county elections, the entire election cost 20 to 30 million euros. Whereas, and German politicians don't spend any money at all raising funds, whereas in the United States, the average American politician at the federal level spends 4 to 5 hours a day begging special interests for money, Republicans and Democrats. And Germany, as a result of all this, has 71% voter participation. We have 57%. So serious stuff. In the context of all that, Julio Rivera is with us. He's the editorial director of Reactionary Times, columnist with Newsmax, right-wing news, and Politichicks. And reactionarytimes.com is the website, and you can tweet him at, oh yeah, it's Julio. Julio, welcome.
Hey, how are you, Tom? A lot of interesting stuff there that I hear you saying. Obviously the ad that was run by that SuperPAC was probably in poor taste in a sense, because I don't really necessarily see a lot of people on the left, the conventional left, maybe the fringe left, were cheering what occurred. But the fact of the matter
is, there's nobody cheering what occurred, Julio. There's nobody cheering it. Period. Well, the guy was a domestic abuser, and just like nobody was cheering on the right, to the best of my knowledge, when Gabby Giffords was shot. I mean, that's like nobody is cheering that. Drop that.
Well, listen, why do we have these violent Antifa protests? Why do we have in Berkeley, when there's just an exchange of different ideas and thoughts, when Ben Shapiro...
That's a whole completely different topic, Julio. We're talking about what money in politics here. We've got an election in Georgia where you've got a bunch of billionaires in hiding funding a hit ad that is so offensive that even the Republicans in Georgia have condemned it, but it's still on the air. And this is how money in politics has corrupted America. And whether it's labor unions doing something at the last minute to help a Democrat, or whether it's billionaires at the last minute doing something to help a Republican, this is wrong. Would you not agree?
No, well, there's billionaires helping the Democrats too, and there's dirty ads all over. We just went through
so let's get rid of them.
Cycle where there were dirty ads being posted by both sides. I mean,
so let's stop it.
Think that this is something that should reflect poorly on the Republican candidate at all, and the campaigns are strictly prohibited from coordinating with the super PAC.
Yeah,
so
right.
Obviously, this should not reflect on the campaign being run by the Republicans.
Well, you know, I'm trying to separate the issue here, which I'd like you to speak to. I have not heard a word from you about it. Should we in America reverse the Buckley versus Vallejo decision and 1976 that struck down most of the campaign finance reforms in 73 and 74 that were passed on a bipartisan basis? In fact, mostly Republicans led the charge for this stuff after Richard Nixon resigned. Should we pass a constitutional amendment or something like that? Should we do, or whatever it takes to reverse the Supreme Court decision and say, no, we are going to have limits on money in politics in the United States because money is a corrosive and corrupting influence. Left, right, doesn't matter.
Well, that I can most certainly agree with. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I think that people should be contributing directly with a limit to the candidates directly. I don't like the way that the super PACs handled a lot of things. Obviously, this most recent ad, there was a lot of things that went on during the presidential primary that I didn't agree with as well, either with some of the things that the super PACs did, like, obviously the whole thing with Ted Cruz's wife, the unflattering picture, and then there was just a lot of things. There was a lot of dirty, ugly things that happened in the last campaign cycle. I agree with that. That's something that one of the rare times that I will agree with.
So how do you think we should do it?
We should have limits.
How do you think we should do it?
I think that what they should do is they should write it that private citizens can donate directly to the candidates up to the $5,400 limit per cycle, per primary and per general election. The way that they basically what they have now, they should eliminate maybe the super PACs or really deeply reform it.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. Julio, I'm impressed.
Listen. I don't agree with you in theory on a lot of things because I think that you're, as a Bernie Sanders type of democratic socialist, that's how I see you. And maybe I'm wrong.
That's reasonably accurate.
I don't believe. What was that?
I said that's a reasonably accurate portrayal of me.
Okay, well, I don't believe in that either. I don't believe in wealth redistribution. Wealth redistribution, at its core, is immoral. I don't think that anybody's entitled to something that somebody else has earned. I believe in a totally free market. So
yeah, well, that's a whole completely separate argument.
I'm a believer in the far right principle, but I think you're a good guy.
Back to money in politics. The argument that the billionaire class has made, and they've made it through a series of lawsuits, and this is how they got it before the Supreme Court in 1976, and it came about in large part as a result of the 1971 Powell memo, and Lewis Powell, ironically, then also wrote the Buckley decision in 76. And in 71, in his memo to Eugene Sindor, his neighbor and the head of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, he said, business has to get into politics. Businesses had been apolitical until 1971. Businesses, by and large, had not been backing political candidates. And they've thrown in full bore. So if we agree that individual campaign donations should be limited to $5,400, and should that just be it, or is there a role for government funding in political campaigns? And what do you do about labor unions and big corporations?
Well, I think you have to severely limit the influence of big corporations and labor unions especially. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I mean, I am totally in agreement with that. I think that it should be more driven by the people. I mean, you always like to say that there is no government, it is only we the people. I think that government should not have influence, obviously, in the way these elections are carried out, because everybody has an agenda, and it's usually not the purest of agendas.
Yeah.
And I think that they exert.
Well, what about the Supreme Court's assertion in Citizens United in 2010 that corporations should have the right to contribute to campaigns as well, that their voices, being the most informed actors in the economic arena, I think was the language that Scalia used.
Limitations, though, with limitations to a certain extent. Like I said, we have to reform it. I'm not for all-out wiping it out completely, but let's look to reform it as much as we can and as best as we can.
Yeah. Okay. Julio Rivera, interesting conversation. Editorial Director of Reactionary Times, columnist with Newsmax, Right-Wing News and Politichicks. You can tweet him at, oh yeah, it's Julio, and Julio. Julio, thanks for talking with me today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Tom.
Have a great afternoon. We will be back right after this. Stick around.